Week we're completing practically the whole week. The chapters that were discussed are the pastimes of Lord Varaha. So we can get right into those. I'll bring up the texts. This is June still, 2023, lessons 3 and 4, which is still a review of the third canto. And we're doing chapters 13 through 20. Samapreya, you want to pick some reader? You'll have to unmute.
Okay. Tisha, would you like to go through this, explaining it? First reading the 1 to 5 inquiries about Manu, and then how it goes into the more descript.
Yes, Mataji, thank you. So we're at 3:13, appearance of Lord Varaha. 1 through 5, inquiries by Vidura about Manu. And then 1 through 3 was, I am eager to hear what the original and saintly King Manu did after getting his wife. 4 through 5 is the greatest goal of hearing from the Guru is to hear about pure devotees. 6 through 8 is Manu asks Brahma. And he asks, how may we serve you? Then Brahma instructs Manu, 9 through 10, you have the qualities of an ideal son. 11, beget progeny, rule earth and worship the Lord. 12 and 13, protect people and please the Lord, else one's efforts are useless labor. 14 and 15, Manu's reply was, I abide, please retrieve the earth.
Let's stop there just for a moment, because there were some very interesting instructions in this section between Manu and Brahma, compared to Brahma and his previous sons, the 4 Kumaras. Can anybody comment on that? You may remember what happened was that Brahma's duty, after he had, in previous chapters, we read how he actually had darshan of Garbhodakshai Vishnu, who he prayed to and wanted to create. So the Lord benedicted him that he would direct him and that he should make a residence for all the living entities that were as yet unembodied. So his duty, prime duty, was to populate the universe. And when he first generated the 4 Kumaras, his initial sons, he explained to them that this is my duty, you please follow it. And what did they do?
They went underwater into a lake, and they didn't beget progeny. They chose to be brahmacharis.
They refused, correct?
Yeah.
And what happened when they refused?
Brahma got angry.
Very good. And then what happened?
From here. Oh, yeah, from here.
Yeah. Was it Shiva or Lord?
Yes, Rudra. Rudra was generated from the anger and passion of Lord Brahma, who is the creator. So he's in a creative mode. And with that anger, Rudra was manifest. And can anybody remember some examples of the Rudra principle in material nature? How do we see that? Where have we witnessed it? Tamapriya, you remember any of them? Nanda?
Yeah.
Well, I just remember sometimes when it becomes manifested in your body, in different parts of your body, like you kick your legs or smash your fist.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember if it's in the thunder. I don't know. The rest is
Yeah,
spectrum.
thunder.
Yes, I always like the fire. If you see a real hot, big fire, then that's the Rudra principle. Just like at the time of devastation, there's a fire of devastation, or a huge tornado. Nature, when she exhibits immense power, tsunami waves, all these different examples are the Rudra principle of destruction in material nature. So that manifested from Brahma with his anger. In this particular conversation, however, when he explained, and you may remember what happened was that he was feeling a lack. Even though he generated some Prajapatis, he had 9 mental sons, aside from the 4 Kumaras. And they also were not sufficiently fulfilling the duty of populating the universe. And then all of a sudden, 2 entities, a male and a female, manifested from his body. And that was Manu and his wife Satarupa. So he explained to Manu, this is the duty. We have to manifest these living entities. And in response, Manu, unlike the 4 Kumaras, as we read here in 6 through 8, how may we serve you? This was his attitude. So Brahma, being very pleased with him, explained to rule, beget progeny, rule the earth, and worship the Lord. So Manu is the leader of mankind and establishes the Manu Samhita and Manu Dharma, proper action for those in the human form of life. And he was very pleased. Brahma was very pleased with him. So he's saying, but before I do that, please retrieve the earth. So next, we go to 16 through 30.
Teacher, go on.
Okay, 16 through 30. Pastimes of Sveta Varaha. 16 through 19, while Brahma contemplated, a small boar came out of his nostril and expanded himself. 20 through 27, Brahma and sages wondered. Lord Varaha roared and the sages glorified. 28 through 30, Lord divided into ocean and Lord dived into the ocean and lifted the earth. 31 through 33, pastimes of Nila Varaha. 31 and 33, the Lord killed Hiranyaksha and held the earth on his tusks. And then 34 through 45, prayers by the sages. 34 through 38, Varaha's body as the form of sacrifice. 39, obeisances to Lord Varaha. 40 through 42, elephant holding lotus, mountain with clouds, father with mother.
Okay, could you stop for one moment? I have a question. First of all, we say Varaha. That's how you pronounce Varaha.
Yeah.
And what does that mean that the Lord's form is the form of sacrifice? Patti, can you explain that? I can't hear you. I'm mute.
It's in Bhagavad Gita. He says that even transcendence is present in acts of sacrifice.
Right.
The Lord undergoes so many difficulties, but in this particular feature, it means that all sacrifice and all activities should be done for him. Who knows that verse? 529.
Oh, Bhaktaram. Okay, help me out.
What?
Oh, God, how would I not remember that? The top is from
Anantara, do you know that verse?
Bhaktaram.
Bhoktaram Jagnatapasam
Jagatasam.
Sarva Loka Maheswaram Suhridam Sarvabhutanam Gyatpamam Shantam Richati.
And that
So
means
it means he's the enjoyer of all sacrifices. Everything is meant for his pleasure.
and also in this
So the demigods are praying like that. All the activities that are going to be performed in this universe are for your pleasure. Your form is the form of sacrifice, your body.
and as you mentioned before, the highest transcendence is situated in acts of sacrifice. That's, I think, from the 3rd chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. So that's interesting to contemplate also. Acts of sacrifice help one to transcend. Okay, are we finished with this?
No, she was only
Okay.
here.
Okay, let's finish.
Okay. 43, only you could do this. 44, we are purified by you. 45, bestow good fortune on all. And then 46 through 50, the Lord returns and Phala Shruti. 46 and 47, Lord placed the earth on water and returned. 48 through 50, power of hearing about the Lord.
Whenever there's a narration about the Lord's pastimes, the general verses at the very end are called Fal Shruti. Shruti means verses or hearing. Shruti, like Shravanam, and Fal means fruit. So there's some fruit for one who spent his or her time and attention on this narration. And here it is, the power of hearing about the Lord. He didn't write the details, and I forget exactly what the Fal Shruti are, but generally they're very pleasing, auspicious acts. Somebody wants to look that up, 46 through 50. There's another point here that will be in the next slide. We'll see here that 16 through 30 were the pastimes of Sveta Varaha. Sveta means white. And 31 through 33 were the pastimes of Nila Viraha. It's also called Rakta Varaha, the red Varaha. So Samapriya, why don't you pick another person? We'll read about that in this purport.
Nanda, would you like to read? And you have your hand up. Could you speak and read? Thank you.
I can speak and read. I just looking at the Fala Shruti, so I just thought I'd read it to you. It says, if this is text 48, if one hears and describes in a devotional service attitude this auspicious narration of Lord Bor, which is worthy of description, the Lord who is within the heart of everyone is very pleased. 49 says, nothing remains unachieved when the Supreme Personality of Godhead is pleased with someone. Wow. By transcendental achievement, one understands everything else to be insignificant. One who engages in transcendental loving service is elevated to the highest perfectional stage by the Lord himself, who is seated in everyone's heart. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Okay.
So how do we know when the Lord is pleased?
When you feel pleased, when I'm pleased, that's what it just said. It said if one,
Yes, it did.
but also, you know, the Lord is pleased when you're following the instructions of your spiritual master and reading the scriptures, et cetera, et cetera.
Wow.
That's beautiful. Thank you.
Oh, she's going to read now.
Okay, 13th chapter, verses 14 to 18. Sri Manu said, O all-powerful Lord, killer of all sins, I shall abide by your order. Now please let me know my place and that of the living entities born of me. O master of the demigods, please attempt to lift the earth, which is merged in the great water, because it is a dwelling place for all living entities. It can be done by your endeavor and by the mercy of the Lord. Sri Maitreya said, thus seeing the earth merged in the water, Brahma gave his attention for a long time how it could be lifted. Brahma thought, while I have been engaged in the process of creation, the earth has been inundated by a deluge and has gone down into the depths of the ocean. What can we do who are engaged in this matter of creation? It's best to let the Almighty Lord direct us. Oh, sinless Vidura, all of a sudden, while Lord Brahma was engaged in thinking, a small form of a boar came out of his nostril. The measurement of the creature was not more than the upper portion of a thumb.
You have to unmute, Sam.
I remember a long time ago, the devotees used to make recordings of the different pastimes of the Lord. So when I read this, I remembered one of the devotees speaking these particular lines that were that's what we did in the beginning. Of course, it was on cassette tapes. Do you remember that, Nanda?
Yes.
Yeah, so that last, can you make this picture a little smaller, Patty, for a second? Because that line.
It looks like he's sleeping. Lord Varaha, is he being laid to rest? Or maybe he's just covered with cloth.
He's standing up, actually. That's a relief form.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah, he's just covered. He's actually got like a turban on.
Oh, yeah.
Like this. This is his earrings.
Yeah.
That's just a chutter
Uh-huh.
over the earth. And the reason I use this particular shot is this is Sveta Varaha, the white form of the Lord. You can see the symbols of Vishnu, the conch shell, the mace. What do you got over here? It looks like a chakra. So I must have a club down over there. Oh, no,
that's going to be a flower. It hasn't given it yet.
Lotus flower, right. And then actually, what happens is that Maitreya first narrated this pastime of Sveta Varaha, and then, as we'll read in the next chapter, Vidura said, but I heard that the Lord also killed a demon. And then that whole pastime will evolve. But I'll wait until we get to that text.
And look, he's got little roses on his nose, like they were little earth balls. He's got 3 little roses on his nose.
Very sweet.
Hi. Oh, here.
Yeah.
Hey, good. Didn't notice that.
This is also from in Mathura. This deity is situated in Mathura, right, Patti?
Yes, when he completed the pastime of lifting the earth, you may remember that he rested at the place called Vishramghat, which is the same place where Krishna rested after he killed Kamsa. Vishram means to take rest. So while he was there, he sat with Mother Bhumi, who had personified, if you remember, he was there, and he spoke the Adi Varaha Purana. And in that Purana, there are so many glories of Mathura, which is very dear to the Lord. It's this place where he makes his appearance in this material world. So it's right near that Varaha, Vishramghat, that Lord Varaha is manifest in both those forms, this one and the red one.
Right. Beautiful. Purification by hearing the pastimes of the Lord. Okay, Sham Govinda, would you like to continue for us and describe this chart?
Sorry, did we finish the last one? Or
Yes.
this? Okay. So, Canto 3, Chapter 14, Pregnancy of Diti in the Evening. So, verses 1 to 4, Vidura's inquiries about Varaha. 1 to 4, I am inquisitive to know the cause of the fight between Lord Varaha and Hiranyaksha. 5 to 7, Maitreya congratulates Vidura. 5 to 7, your inquiries are glorious as the Lord's topics are liberating. 8 through 15, Diti approaches Kasyapa for union in the evening. 8 through 12, Cupid is torturing me. My co-wives have children. Our fame will increase. 13 through 15, I choose you before marriage. Why should I alone be without a child? Great persons shouldn't neglect the distressed. 16 through 21, Kasyapa glorifies his wife. 16 through 18, you are the source of Trivagiki Siddhi. A wife helps to cross the material ocean. 19 through 21, she is half of the man's body. Helps in conquering the senses, can't be repaid. 22 through 29, Kasyapa's reasons for postponing union. 22, others will criticize. 23 and 24, ghosts and Shiva wonder. 25 and 26, Shiva sees with 3 eyes. He regards no one his relative. 27 through 29, intelligent people worship Shiva. Fools disrespect him. Even Brahma follows Shiva. 30 through 36, union and Diti's repentance. 30 and 31, Diti forced. Kasyapa gave in. 32 through 36, Diti to Kasyapa. May Lord Shiva be merciful to me and my embryo. 37 through 43, Kasyapa's predictions and Diti's requests. 37 through 41, your behavior made everything inauspicious. Your sons will be demons. 42 and 43, may the wrath of Brahmanas not kill my sons. 44 through 51, Kasyapa speaks about Diti's grandson, Prahlad. 44 through 45, because of your repentance, your grandson will be a great devotee. 46 through 50, qualities of Prahlad.
Goodness. So, 2 things. 22, others will criticize. That was the first thing that Kasyapa gave, the first reason for postponing the union, because of criticism from others. Well, what does that really mean, actually? That seems pretty external to me. Why would that be mentioned?
Well, I guess it's the opposite to getting blessings. So you're not going to get some spiritual auspicious event / personality.
That's a very good point. Good. Anything else, Patty?
Well, because he may start that way, like saying others will criticize, but then he explained why they'll criticize. That was the next one, I believe. Ghosts and Shivas wandered during this time. It was an inappropriate time. She had not, in order to create good children or generate good children, there are particular time, place, and circumstances which should be followed.
Austerity, some austerities have to be there.
Not only that, there's actually time, place, and circumstance. The Manu Samhita actually in those purports to that particular section, the Garbhadan Samskara, which no one can even perform in this age, is a sacrifice, a series of events that people undertake before they have union to create a child. So he's saying, we haven't done that. You're coming to me and just being lusty and wanting to generate child right now is inauspicious. Others will criticize.
Wow, good. Okay, anything you want to say, Sham? Anything more about any of these topics?
No, I guess DT knows she's gone in the wrong direction, and then she gets demons as sons, then she repents, and then there is a resolution that she gets Prahlad. I mean, just like she's conscious of it, seems like she's conscious of what she's doing the whole time. So I can't recall the backstory, but it seems like she knew she was going to get demons by not following Vedic principles, but that was the Lord's desire.
And her repentance caused the appearance of Prahlad, so who is the greatest devotee. So that's very significant. And if we want the mercy of the devotee, then we have to be a little repentant about our activities in this world. We're victimized by the modes of nature. So the repentance must be there to get the mercy of the pure devotees, who we heard in the very beginning of the first graph, was that it's most wonderful to hear about the activities of the devotees. That was one of the most wonderful things that was spoken.
That's a good point. I think it said here about the activities of the pure devotees through the pure devotee, so that it really hits the heart when you hear it from the pure devotee.
Right. We are blessed to hear from Prabhupada. We really are. We have the pure devotees speaking to us about this transcendental knowledge. Anything else? No? Let's go on now. Mandantara, would you like to read this slide? And thank you so much, Sham. Oh, we got a question, and also you read. So there's another one. You can say what you want to.
In terms of the question asked to Sham Govinda, the Arjuna asked the same question when he said, I'm trying to remember, when he asked Lord Sri Krishna, Arjuna said, what compels people to act sinfully, even though they know? I don't know the exact phrase. I'm hoping someone else.
Yeah, you're doing good. Keep going. Even though they know they shouldn't, they still act impulsively.
Exactly. They still act impulsively. And so, I mean, it's easy to say it's Krishna's will and these things happen, but these things happen through nature. Krishna said it's lust only, Arjuna.
And so did Kasyapa say the same thing to Aditi.
Exactly. To Diti.
They were, to Diti.
Mm-hmm.
So the same
So the point is, you can't just put it into a package and say, well, it was Krishna's arrangement. It's Krishna's
exactly
plan the whole time. No, you're correct. Exactly correct.
Right.
What does Krishna say after he says it is lust only, Arjuna, which impels people to act sinfully? What's the next verse? Therefore, one should curb these
all-powerful enemy.
Yes, powerful enemy.
Yes,
exactly,
right.
By regulating the senses. So
yes.
that she was so overwhelmed with desire that she wasn't willing to do that. And just,
Right.
you know, the point is that's why demons were born. And look at
Mhm.
what's happening in the world today without
Yes.
proper child planning.
Right.
Good
Yeah.
point. Excellent point.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Amatari, you want to read?
Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 14, Text 2 through 7. Sri Vidura said, O chief amongst the great sages, I have heard by disciplic succession that Hiranyaksha, the original demon, was slain by the same form of sacrifices, the personality of Godhead, Lord Bor. What was the reason, O Brahmana, for the fight between the demon king and Lord Bor, while the Lord was lifting the earth as his pastime? Maitreya answered, this history of the fight between the Lord as a boar and the demon Hiranyaksha was heard by me in a year long ago, as it was described by the foremost of the demigods, Brahma, when he was questioned by the other demigods. Purport. As referred to previously, the boar incarnation was manifested in 2 millenniums, namely Swayambhuva and Shakshusa. In both millenniums, there was a boar incarnation of the Lord, but in the Swayambhuva millennium, he lifted the earth from within the water of the universe, whereas in the Chaksusa millennium, he killed the first demon, Hiranyaksha. In the Swayambhuva millennium, he assumed the color white, and in the Chaksusa millennium, he assumed the color red. Vidura had already heard about one of them, and he proposed to hear about the other. The 2 different boar incarnations described are the one supreme personality of Godhead.
I really like
These images come after the chapter review. So it's referring to what we just read. You know, remember, we were reading about Manu asking Brahma to save the earthly planet, which is this white one here first. And
Right.
then Vidura cut in and said, well, I've heard that he killed a demon. What about that pastime? So Maitreya merges the 2 into his narrations from then on. And he's describing how those demons first manifested. There's another slide here, Sama, that you don't have in your version that I added. So we need somebody to read this next one.
Okay. How about Kate? Thank you, Mama Tarji. Kate, would you like to read this? Oh boy, look at that picture.
Thank you, Hare Krishna. Srimad Bhagavatam 3:14-48. The learned Kashyapa said, because of your minds being polluted, because of defilement of the particular time, because of your negligence of my directions, and because of your being apathetic to the demigods, everything was very inauspicious. O haughty one, you will have 2 contemptuous sons born of your condemned womb. Unlucky woman, they will cause constant lamentation to all 3 worlds. They will kill poor, faultless living entities, torture women, and enrage great souls. Purport. The Supreme Personality of Godhead does not need to descend in order to kill any strong-built body. He comes down just for the sake of his devotees. Everyone is subject to the miseries offered by material nature, but because the activities of miscreants, such as killing innocent people and animals or torturing women, are harmful to everyone and therefore a source of pain for devotees, the Lord comes down. He descends only to give relief to his ardent devotees.
Oh my goodness. That is a heavy, heavy prediction on the part of Kasyapa Muni. What do you think about that? That's like a heavy thing to curse someone in such a way. What is that?
Yeah, it reminds me of the Bhagavad Gita where, Arjuna's lamenting his big, the debate like of Dharma versus Adharma and what happens when the women are defiled and Adharma takes over. But I don't know. Well, I don't know when Bhagavad Gita happened in relation to when this is happening.
Way after.
But the
Bhagavad Gita
principles are the
was way
same.
after. But the principles are the same, yeah.
Yeah.
And
Bhagavad Gita is recent time.
it also is still happening today. I feel these, the women are defiled and born of children are born of miscreants, and this is happening today.
It's going to get worse in the Kali Yuga.
Hmm.
Principles of religion are not practiced here in the Kali Yuga. Nandaji.
I have a question, and you might not like it. So it just seems like Kasyapa is like not taking any responsibility for this. It's her condemned womb. It's her this. It's her that. What about his resistance? I know Prabhupada talks about it in the purports, but it's just, even though I've heard these things for 50 years, it gets a little hard to take sometimes, So what would you like to say about that?
Everything's ordained by the Lord. Oh my goodness. Everybody has to take responsibility. She was lost. Someone who's lost in lust does not think about responsibility in any way. That's how powerful lust is. She's not thinking. And he warned her. He warned her, and she didn't care. She's just in a very small minded space. I want this. I don't care the results. And then he says, it's just like Krishna said, okay, you want it? Here it is, but you suffer for the results. That's what I'm thinking. What do you think, Pati?
Oh, I love it when the ladies take over on this topic.
Oh, you're not going to say it. Uh-oh. What do you think, Nandaji? What do you think?
Well, Prabhupada mentions in the purport, and not necessarily right there, but in that section, he mentions that Kasyapa, because he was already attracted to his wife, he agreed to it, although he even knew it was wrong. So, okay, but why, such a heavy condemnation of her when, it does take two to beget children, he could have said no. He could have. Why? And that's the part that's the part about even a Kshatriya's promise or whatever. I can't really think of another example, but there are other examples where, they anyway, that's
Kaikeyi. What about Kaikeyi? Kaikeyi was also very belligerent. She was swayed by someone, but she was also belligerent. And the thing is that when the Lord has a plan, he has a plan. So poor Kaikeyi, she had to be in that role. But because of that, the Lord came, or the Lord performed his activities. He performed his activities, even though it was so heartless and a horrible part that she had to play. So the Lord wanted to fight. He wanted to come. So, these things had to be done somehow or another. It reminded me of the same kind of situation as that. Manvitar and Sham. Okay. Oh, we got everyone's hands up for this one. Okay.
Also, I'll make mine brief. Also, Kasyapa at the time, I thought I read somewhere in Srila Prabhupada's purport that he wasn't exactly, he was like what do you call those? Not Mayavadi, but he wasn't exactly a bhakta. He was like how Maitreya was in the very beginning.
A yogi?
Yeah, he was some kind of a yogi, but he wasn't.
He wasn't
anyway,
a pure devotee. Let's just say that.
He wasn't a pure devotee.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't remember the exact word Srila Prabhupada used, but he was also influenced by other things. So that's why and so Mother Nanda is right. Why does she get all the blame? DT, but Kasyapa was not a bhakta at the time.
Nanda, we need you back here.
That's okay. Go on to Manvantara and Tisha.
Okay, Tisha.
Nanda.
Tisha.
Sham.
And wait a minute, Sham had his hand up. Let's hear from Sham first, because let's see.
That's okay.
Yes.
I was going to suggest the same thing as Mother Manvantara said. My thoughts that do come to mind is that Kashyapa Muni did have co-wives. So is it that he was the father of the demons, or was he also father of the demigods through other wives?
Yes.
He was,
Diti's
He had a big
sister is
family.
Aditi.
yeah,
Okay, now I remember, yes.
yeah. Okay, is that it? Was that all you had to say? Okay, Tisha.
From my perspective on fresh years of hearing this new and not for 50 years, like Mother Nanda, is that the punishment outweighs the, I don't know, like if you were going to measure, if I do this, what's the punishment? It seems like the punishment outweighs the error. And so it makes you feel like it really is the play. You know, it's like Krishna, it's the play so he could appear.
That's an interesting way to look at it too. But another safety net is if it's in the Bhagavatam, there's a reason for it. So we got to look through at all those different options. What you should shed some more light, Nandaji, on this. And aside from just making it a question, you got to give something.
I don't have any light right now. I'm in the dark. You can see I'm in the.
I think as we churn this topic, we're understanding that although it appears that there is a real down kind of condemnation on Diti, we're finding that similarly, Kasyapa was a weak yogi. Because we know from the example of Haridas Thakur, when he was approached by the prostitute and she tried to entice him, it's described that because he was a bhakta, because he was a pure devotee of the Lord, he was able to, rather than being influenced by her, he influenced her to take up devotional service. So at this point in the creation, Kasyapa is a Prajapati, which means he's going to generate children. That's his part in the universal development. And we're seeing that although it appears that she's being condemned, he's also not being glorified, because certainly he did fall victim to the time, place, and circumstance and was weak. And therefore the demons were born. He could see that, but he generated them. And then he'll go further into an explanation, or Maitreya will, about how that all came about.
Okay, two things. First, the first thing that Lord Brahma created was illusion. It was, remember, it was misconception, illusion. That's the first thing. That's where you have to be an illusion to enter the material world. So following that tradition of conditioned souls entering into the material world, you know, that's the kind of people that have to be generated. And so Kasyapa is, whatever his traits are, he has to stick in line with that. This is not a place where liberated souls come. This is a place where people come to fulfill their material desires. The other thing, even though this was
Hold it before you go on. I beg to differ, because I just gave the example of Haridas Thakur. Pure devotees also come here.
They come, but they come for a different reason. They come to help, to liberate the conditioned souls. So, but the other thing is to have Prahlad as your grandson in one way, you know, that is more than a balance to have such a personality as your heir. And this is not an ordinary personality, Prahlad.
So what are you saying? One of the lessons being brought out in this pastime, because it's not just somebody having demon children, that doesn't merit
repentance.
Exactly.
Repentance. Right. And because she was repentant, she got the greatest devotee as her grandson. So the mistake was made and she repented and he benedicted. So, you know, everything balances.
This is a setup now. We've come to the point where Diti is pregnant, and let us continue.
Okay, good. All right. Now, Kate just read Premananda. Are you still here, Premananda?
Yes, I'm here. Hare Krishna.
Yes, Hare Krishna. You are familiar with these. Can you please read and explain this to us?
Okay, chapter 15, description of the kingdom of God. Text 1 through 11, the demigods approach Brahma and glorify him. You are beyond the influence of time. You know the intentions of all. You directly appeared from the Lord. You are source of the Vedas. Please solve this problem.
What is the problem?
the disturbance created due to the demons.
So there, what happened was there was darkness in all, the whole universe became dark, right?
Right.
Okay.
Because of the pregnancy of DT.
Well,
Right.
they're asking him why. What happened? They're approaching him to understand why this happened. Am I correct?
Yes, Prabhu.
Okay.
Text 12 through 25. Description of Vaikuntha is given by Brahma. 12 and 13. The 4 Kumaras once went to the Vaikuntha planets. 14 to 22. Vaikuntha. Man, Lord, forest, couples, birds, plants, airplanes, Lakshmis. So this basically describes Vaikuntha. And then 23 to 25, who can and who cannot enter Vaikuntha.
Well, this is excellent. Why not just stop here for a moment and kind of speak a little bit about how the spiritual world compared to the material world is being described as a technique to describe what is beyond this world. Any realizations there, Premananda?
You mean realizations or the description of
Just
Vaikuntha?
the way that Vyasadeva and Vyasadeva ultimately is the author, incorporating this description. He's just described earlier the whole material creation through the words of Maitreya and Sukadev to Maharaj Pariksit. But here, in this way, he's now bringing the whole narration to the opportunity or description of a world beyond this one. So I think it's like setting a foundation for future principles that will be discussed further.
Yeah, in Bhagavad Gita, before the first chapter, there is a small chapter called Setting the Scene. So it's the same thing here, is setting the scene, and Vyasadeva is really kind of laying the foundation and giving the whole background and the context. Because unless we understand what Vaikuntha is, where Vaikuntha is, and what's the position of Jaya and Vijaya, we'll not be able to get the full picture, So that's why I think he's giving this whole background. It's just like any author, whenever he writes any books or novels, he just sets the scene, right? He explains the surroundings, the conditions, and then he gradually introduces the protagonist. So the same thing. He's just setting the scene before describing more about Jaya and Vijaya and the 4 Kumaras and the encounter between them.
Yeah, well, that was actually was discussed in the text when the Kumaras came, and then we didn't get there yet, did we?
No, it's 12 to 15 the Kumaras came.
Yeah, the Kumaras come, and then it's all described nicely. Yes, that's all right. Let's go on.
Okay, 26 to 36, the Kumaras cursed Jaya and Vijaya. The Kumaras were stopped at the 7th gate by Jaya and Vijaya and angrily cursed them to enter the material world. The doorkeepers asked forgiveness and requested that they don't forget the Lord. 37 through 45, the Lord arrived and gave darshan to the 4 Kumaras. 37 to 42, beauty of the Lord. And 43 to 45, the Kumaras became devotees. 46 through 50, prayers of the Kumaras to the Lord. Only by your mercy have we become devotees. Devotees do not consider liberation as your real mercy.
So that's beautiful. Why don't devotees consider liberation the real mercy of the Lord?
Because there is no personal service. It's quite impersonal in some extent. And there is no ananda. You may get certain treat, but no ananda. So devotees derive more pleasure by serving the Lord and his devotees rather than merging into the Brahma Jyoti and attaining so-called impersonal liberation. So that's the main thing.
Good. I just heard Srila Prabhupada say on a lecture that you don't have to be a big yogi or anything to understand this and do great meditation liberation means to understand that you are the servant of Krishna.
Right.
That's what liberation means.
Yes.
It's very simple. It's very, very simple for the simple. Okay. Anything else on this that's been discussed, Pachi?
No, nothing in that
Okay.
particular, except
Thank
that
you.
there's that famous verse, this famous part here that we just crossed over. We should mention it. The Lord arrived and gave darshan to the 4 Kumaras. The beauty of the Lord and the devotee and the Kumaras became devotees. So by seeing the form of the Lord, by smelling the tulsi, from the aroma on his feet, seeing the Lord before them. Prior to that, they were Brahmavadis. They were Brahman realized souls. But now they actually saw the form of the Lord. And by that experience, they understood, they were just so attracted. That's the meaning of Krishna, all attractive. They became so absorbed and attracted, the smell overwhelmed them. And immediately they decided to dedicate their lives to him. It's an important point.
Right.
Wonderful. Okay, thank you. Chatamayi, would you like to read for us?
Certainly. Morning, everyone. Hare Krishna. Srimad Bhagavatam 3:15, 33, and 34. In the Vaikuntha world, there is complete harmony between the residents and the Supreme Personality of Godhead, just as there is complete harmony within space between the big and the small skies. Why then is there a seed of fear in this field of harmony? These two persons are dressed like inhabitants of Vaikuntha, but wherefrom can their disharmony come into existence? Therefore, let us consider how these two contaminated persons should be punished. The punishment should be apt, for thus benefit can eventually be bestowed upon them. Since they find duality in the existence of Vaikuntha life, they are contaminated and should be removed from this place to the material world, where the living entities have 3 kinds of enemies. Srila Prabhupada's purport. The reason why pure souls come into the existential circumstances of the material world, which is considered to be the criminal department of the Supreme Lord, is stated in Bhagavad Gita. It is stated that as long as a living entity is pure, he is in complete harmony with the desires of the Supreme Lord. But as soon as he becomes impure, he is in disharmony with the desires of the Lord. By contamination, he is forced to transfer to this material world, where the living entities have 3 enemies, namely desire, anger, and lust. These 3 enemies force the living entities to continue material existence. And when one is free from them, he is eligible to enter the kingdom of God. Whew.
Wow.
So
That's
that
helpful.
Yeah, the punishment is you're impure, so we're going to send you to the place where everybody's impure, and you have to deal with that and somehow purify yourself to be eligible to re-enter this kingdom.
Talk about not that appropriate punishment. They're residents of Vaikuntha. They made a mistake. What happened to forgiveness? But you know, the Brahmins, and I want to just mention this real quick about Kasyapa Muni. When austerity makes the hard heart, that's what we've heard. That austerity is, you practice great austerity, you become a little severe. So and Kasyapa Muni, when he cursed Diti's condemned womb, he was angry. It seems as though he was angry. So that is a symptom that's being described here for people in the material world. Anger is there. And also the Brahmins and the sages who perform austerities, they're quick to anger. Devasumuni, very quick to get angry because of all the austerities. It actually makes the heart hard. That's why we practice bhakti yoga. It softens the heart. You can't go be with Krishna if your heart is hard. So that was
Right.
another.
Yes,
sorry.
it seems that the bhakti yoga process is the only way to get free of these three enemies, because we are just we're immersed in it. Everyone around us is experiencing these feelings and they're acting on them, and we're all victims of them. And we really have to hold our ground if we want to pull ourselves out of it. And that means devotee association and constant replenishment with Krishna Katha.
And chanting the holy name.
And chanting. Thank you. Thank you, Mata.
Specifically meant for this age. Thank you. Okay, let's go on. Tisha, you want to do another chart?
Yes, Mataji. Okay. 3:16. The two doorkeepers of Vaikuntha, Jaya and Vijaya, cursed by the sages. 1 through 12. The Lord apologizes to the Kumaras. 2 through 5. I approve the punishment. I consider this as an offense by myself. 6 through 7. I became glorious because of the Brahmanas. 8 through 9. I enjoy food through the mouth of Brahmanas, and I take their dust. 10 through 11. People who respect Brahmanas please me, others do not. 12. Let my servant come back to me soon. Situation.
Before you go on,
Yeah,
Tisha, explain your understanding of this mode of the Lord, arriving at the door and seeing the situation.
Well, the Lord approved of the punishment, and he considered it an offense. And then he says that he becomes glorious because of the Brahmanas, and that he enjoys the food. I'm guessing the food that the Brahmanas eat as
again?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
Okay, so now we'll go on. Let's just go on where we left off. We were talking about the Lord. Actually, it was a good point. Tisha, we're talking about how we often hear about how the Supreme Lord is a person. And people have characteristics, they have natures. And I found it fascinating that in this particular circumstance, the Supreme Lord, who you would think on one hand is the big controller who never really has to take anything on as far as mistakes or problems on his account. But here, his servants acted in such a way that he's saying their offense to you as my representatives is actually an offense by me. Please forgive me. So it actually opens a door. It gives us a peek into the nature of that person and what he's like.
And he took responsibility for his servants, and he didn't want them to go for a long time. So it satisfied everybody. Okay. So what interference, slight interference. Okay, Pat, you want to put on the next slide?
Yes.
Or continue. We have to continue with that one.
Yeah.
Okay, Tisha, you want to continue, sweetie?
Yes. 13 through 25, situation of the Kumaras. 13 through 15, couldn't understand the Lord's speech, but delighted that the Lord was happy. The Kumaras replied to Lord Narayana, 16 through 24, you alone protect the Brahmanas. You respect them to set an example. You don't depend on anyone's mercy. And 25, we cursed two faultless men. We accept whatever you ordain on them or on us. 26 through 33, the Lord reconciled the situation. 26, punishment on them is ordained by me. 27 through 28, the sages departed from Vaikuntha. 29 through 32, Lord to Jaya and Vijaya, the Lord to Jaya and Vijaya, I don't desire to nullify the Brahmana's curse. Go to the material world. Lakshmi foretold this. You will return to me by meditating on me in anger. Lord Brahmana concludes the narration, 33 through 35. Jaya and Vijaya fell from Vaikuntha and entered Diti's womb. 36 and 37. The prowess of these twin Asuras disturbed you. Only the Lord can come to our rescue.
Remember, this is Brahma speaking to the demigods. Why it happened. So he's saying the prowess of these two asuras disturbed you, the demigods. Only the Lord can come to our rescue.
Okay, I have two questions. What about, and I think Tisha also, when she was reading, she kind of questioned this. Why couldn't they understand the Lord's speech?
Anybody?
They were babies, young boys.
So, but still, they were great sages.
No,
But
because
why-
the Lord likes to speak equivocally. He says one thing and he says another thing, and he likes you to try to figure it out.
Hmm.
Oh, that's one. Or they have a different language in Vaikuntha?
No.
No, it's not that they couldn't understand his words. They couldn't understand the meaning of his words. They couldn't understand why he was being so nice. And at the same time, he even said, I'll even cut off my own arm if it's offensive to you. So, and then you can see that the Kumaras are thinking, oh, we're wrong. And the gatekeepers are thinking we're wrong. So they're trying to figure the whole thing out.
Well, that's because Krishna took responsibility. He was the most humble. It always blows my mind how Krishna is so humble. Oh, my people have done this to you. I'm responsible. I'll cut off my arm, whatever you need. But
Your realization about modesty, Sam, yesterday.
Yeah, nothing is accomplished without modesty, really. We can't demand things and make the point. If we're humble, that means just like this was the example of modesty. The Lord himself is modest. To tell you the truth, I don't exactly remember the exact words how I describe it, but it's a new vision in my life. Maybe modesty will work in social dealings and get, understanding the way we attract Krishna, not flaunting ourselves, but being very modest and appreciative and grateful. Oh boy. Opposite from what we see in the material world. And what about that story about Lakshmi? Lakshmi foretold this. Nanda, you wanna tell us that story?
Coming up.
Oh, it's coming up. Oh,
Okay.
yeah. You
All
have
right.
to read anyway, Nanda ji.
Right now, you want me to read?
Yes,
Okay.
please.
16th chapter, verse 26, the Lord replied, O Brahmins, know that the punishment you inflicted on them was originally ordained by me, and therefore they will fall to a birth in a demoniac family, but they will be firmly united with me in through mental concentration intensified by anger, and they will return to my presence shortly. Purport. The Lord stated that the punishment inflicted by the sages upon the doorkeepers, Jai and Vijay, was conceived by the Lord himself. Without the Lord's sanction, nothing can happen. It is to be understood that there was a plan in the cursing of the Lord's devotees in Vaikuntha, and his plan is explained by many stalwart authorities. The Lord sometimes desires to fight. The fighting spirit also exists in the Supreme Lord. Otherwise, how could fighting be manifest at all? Because the Lord is the source of everything, anger and fighting are also inherent in his personality. When he desires to fight with someone, he has to find an enemy. But in the Vaikuntha world, there's no enemy because everyone is engaged fully in his service. Therefore, he sometimes comes to the material world as an incarnation in order to manifest his fighting spirit.
Oh, so explain, please.
Explain his fighting spirit? Well, because explains that Krishna's Leela he's not only the actor in the Leela, but he's the director of the Leela. And then he also chooses all the other actors in the Leela. And it's all because of his desire. So he had a desire to fight. So he, just like, well, hold on, I don't know if I should jump there. Hold on, I'll come back. So he arranged this because he had a desire to fight. So he, I guess you're saying it's coming up the story how Lakshmi was offended when she came back, and they
Actually,
would,
why don't you incorporate that in your,
okay, so when Lakshmi had gone out for some reason, when she came back, to the Jai and Vijay themselves wouldn't let Lakshmi into the Lord's room because he was sleeping, and she was like, hello, I'm his wife. No, she wasn't like that. That was what I'm like. But
Excuse me, right?
she was modest, but she was ticked off a little, or whatever. So she ordained that they would end up falling, and that's how it's playing out. It's manifesting because of that. Now I forget why I'm starting.
But all these things at once to perform the Lord's pastimes, to satisfy everyone's desire, to satisfy all the different desires of all the people. Ultimately, Krishna likes a good play. He's a great playwright. He always does all these different things involving everyone.
But not just the desires of the people. I mean, that what you're saying is also true, but because of the Lord's plan, he manifests it in different ways.
Yes.
And therefore their coming down was it's exceptional. It's not the normal thing, but because the Lord desired to fight, then he had to arrange something, just kind of sort of. Now this is where I was going to go earlier, but now it fits in better. Just like when the Lord winds up his pastimes here on earth, you know, he's annihilated many millions of demons, and then there's one more burden, and that's the burden of the Yadu dynasty. So he thinks of this incredible plan, how that they'll, you know, get cursed and then fight among themselves, and then they'll annihilate themselves. But it's all part of the Lord's plan, although it comes out unpalatably.
Well, even that particular one, it goes all the way back to Gandhari. Gandhari cursed Krishna. Your family, because of a family feud, will get all destroyed.
But Gandhari doesn't have the potency to curse the Supreme Lord.
She said, thank you. What a great plan.
He just acted out. But anyway, I hear you. Thank you.
No one can curse the Lord, but he accepts it. Yes. Okay. Thank you. Anything else you want to say about this verse, Nandaji? Or shall we go on?
There was something I thought of, and it just flew out of the back holes in my brain.
Fighting spirit.
Yeah, something.
Source of everything, anger and fire also.
You know what it is? Actually, because we're understanding that the Lord says that they will come back soon, but it doesn't say in the narration of the story of the Bhagavatam, it doesn't say that that Jai and Vijay only have to take birth 3 times. If you go through it, because I went to look for it, it's not there in the verses of the Bhagavatam, that if the Lord gives them the option. If you can take birth 3 times as my enemy, or what was the other option?
Seven
times as my friend. But that's in the verses of the Bhagavatam, that's not there. That's
where is it? Puranas?
I can't remember.
Where is that? Vishnu Purana?
I'm not sure, but I've heard Srila Prabhupada tell the story, and I agree with Nanda. I haven't found it in the Bhagavatam either. Maybe Vishnu Purana, or one of the other Puranas.
Yeah. So I'm not saying it's not bona fide. I'm just saying when you go to look for it, where is that in it's not there in the Bhagavatam.
Well, you know, there's the Bhagavatam that we have. In a way, it's complete, but it's actually there's more to it. I mean, you know, we're little, and this is what's revealed, even though it's complete. It's infinite, the Bhagavatam.
And just since we're on that topic, I'll be really quick. Also, that verse that Dhruva Maharaj says that I was looking for broken pieces of glass.
That's not in the Bhagavatam.
That's not in the Bhagavatam either, but sorry.
No, but that doesn't mean it wasn't said.
Correct.
Look at the size of our heads. If we can get the Bhagavatam, we're doing good. That's for sure. Okie dokie. Sham Govinda Prabhuji, could you read this?
Yes. I just wanted to add just on that last verse that the one anomaly is that these devotees, Jai and Vijay, are thinking of the Lord inimically as opposed to in love, which is kind of something different.
anger, because anger, it is said, you will think of me in anger. Why the reason was given was because anger, it really gets you absorbed and developed. And it's even more intense sometimes than thinking in terms of love. When you're angry, you love your son. If someone dares to touch him, you get so angry, you'll just, anger is a very, very strong emotion. So they'll be thinking of him, but deep anger.
Okay, 3:17 through 19, 17 through 19, Lord Varaha and Hiranyaksha.
So this is actually 3 chapters and 1 chart.
Okay, there we go. Thank you. 3:17, victory of Hiranyaksha over all the directions of the universe. 1 through 15, inauspicious omens after the birth of the twin brothers. 15 through 19, the brothers grow up. 20 through 26, Hiranyaksha conquers all directions. 27 through 31, conversation between Varuna and Hiranyaksha. 3:18, chapter 18, the battle between Lord Boar and the demon Hiranyaksha. 2 through 8, Hiranyaksha criticizes Lord Varaha. 9 through 12, the Lord's fitting reply to Hiranyaksha. 13 through 19, fight between Lord Varaha and Hiranyaksha. 20 through 28, Brahma requests Lord Varaha to kill Hiranyaksha. 3:19, the killing of demon Hiranyaksha. 1 through 26, fight between Hiranyaksha and Varahadev. 27 through 32, Brahma and others praised Hiranyaksha. Okay, after his demise, past tense. 33 through 36, glories of the Lord's activities. 37 through 38, Phala Shruti, narrative confers wealth, fame, longevity, etc.
What an amazing chart. That probably took us months to cover when we were reading this section of the Bhagavatam. So wonderful. You have something to say? How about the Phala Shruta? You have something else you want to say about this, Sean?
Did we talk about this before? What is the Phala Shruti?
Okay, it was explained that is the fruit that you get from hearing such a wonderful pastime of the Lord. Such benedictions are there. One who hears this,
okay,
will receive so many benedictions. To unmute, Patti, unmute.
We often don't think that the activities of the Lord are the Lord himself. We have a concept that the Lord and his name are the same because we chant it all the time and we experience it. It's actually described that Nama, Rupa, Guna, and Lila, the names form, qualities, and pastimes are all non-different than the Lord. So one may question, how is it that simply by hearing this pastime, one can have longevity, fame, confers wealth, fame, longevity, so many wonderful qualities? The reason is that it's non-different than the Lord. We're actually associating with the Lord when we hear these pastimes.
Oh, that is so nice. We all want to associate with Krishna. It is so nice to hear that. Oh my goodness. That should be encouraging for all of us.
Samapriya and I often like this one verse. I'll start it and we'll see how far she can get with it.
Oh God.
Nama Chintamani Krishnas.
Chaitanya Rasa Vigraha. Chaitanya Rasa Vigraha.
Sudoporna Nitya Muktas.
Vinatvam Nami Namino.
And what's it
Nami
mean?
Namino. Okay. It means that the name, the quality, the form, the pastimes of Krishna are all equal. What you say, what it means.
Nama Nami
I think
no.
everyone's seeing my real self.
Nama Nami no. The verse means that the person and the name are the same. In the absolute world, the person and the name are the same. So go ahead, Chaitamayi.
Just wondering, what is the number on that verse?
Well,
I have it even here.
Oh, she's got it right on her wall. She cheated.
No, I don't. Wait a minute. I have all kinds of papers everywhere. No, I don't have it. I
I'll
don't
have to look
have
it up. Oh.
it.
All right, well, just give me the first line. I'll look it up.
Namachintamani Krishnas.
Chaitanya,
Okay.
Chaitanya Rasa Vigraha, right?
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Beautiful verse.
So let's go on to the next.
Okay.
Thank you, Sham.
Sham. They read Mamataraji. Thank you, Sham.
With us, Manvitar?
Yeah, she's there.
May I just mention one thing?
Yes.
Because what Sham mentioned is really interesting to me about, and what you guys talked about the acts of sacrifice. But isn't that actually bhakti, sacrifice? Because isn't that part of our condition to get out of this material
the method.
network?
It's the method. It's the method.
It's the method.
And what is the sacrifice for the age?
Acha, the chanting. Okay. Hare Krishna.
No, we are.
So,
We're deeply embedded in sacrifice. That is the clue. It is the clue. The highest transcendence is situated in acts of sacrifice.
Right. Because Lord Vishnu is always recommending sacrifice, and that the Ekadashi at the time is the sacrifice. And Lord Chaitanya, you're right. Okay, Hare Krishna Ram. Got it. Thank you.
I just have one addition. I think what comes clear through this pastime is how Krishna is not partial to the demons or the devotees, because the demons in this pastime are getting just the same amount of mercy as a devotee, and that they'll attain love of God. They return back to Godhead. So any contact with Krishna is favorable.
These are very unique demons. They're the best of all demons. That means they're the most demoniac, but they're actually devotees, aren't they?
But the point is valid, though, right? Because it doesn't give me hope if I think that Krishna is not partial to the demons.
Okay.
Because you know what I'm saying? Because what hope do I have, being here if
You're not
Krishna
a demon.
is not partial?
You are a devotee.
But
Krishna,
but the fact that Krishna does show equality between the demons.
Equal to all. He is equal to all.
Right.
Krishna is equal to all.
So that's encouraging as well, I'm saying.
Sure. But also, it is also the rest of that is that he's equal to all, but one who renders service to him is very dear to him. And he is like that.
Yes.
As soon as you turn toward him and you give someone a piece of candy, the person accepts the candy. Krishna notices. He's so ready to engage everybody to bring them back. Go on.
Okay. So we're reading Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 19, text 21 through 26. Cruel and savage slogans were uttered by hosts of ruffians, yakshas, and rakshasas, who all either marched on foot or rode on horses, elephants, or chariots. The Lord, the personal enjoyer of all sacrifices, now discharged his beloved Sudarshan, which was capable of dispersing the magical forces displayed by the demon. At that very moment, a shudder suddenly ran through the heart of Diti, the mother of Hiranyaksha. She recalled the words of her husband Kasyapa, and blood flowed from her breasts. When the demon saw his magic forces dispelled, he once again came into the presence of the personality of Godhead, Keshava, and full of rage tried to embrace him within his arms to crush him. But to his great amazement, he found the Lord standing outside the circle of his arms. The demon now began to strike the Lord with his hard fists. But Lord Adhokaji slapped him. Adhoksaja slapped him in the root of the ear, even as Indra, the Lord of the Maruts, hit the demon Vritra. Though struck indifferently by the Lord, the conqueror of all, the demon's body began to wheel. His eyeballs bulged out of their sockets, his arms and legs broken, and the hair on his head shattered. He fell down dead, like a gigantic tree uprooted by the wind.
Okay, now I have a question. I have a question for you.
Mm.
What about this attachment that Aditi had, or that Diti had for her sons? I mean, this is a significant thing, that how attached we are to our children. We don't care what they've done. This is like the
Exactly.
closest thing of unconditional love. The
Right.
child could be a mass murderer. He's still my baby. You know, it's like, and that motherly love, it's definitely a perverted reflection, and it's definitely based on the body, thinking that this is actually my child. But it is so, this is Krishna's, one of his perfect plans to keep us in the material world, our love for our children. Not that we shouldn't love our children, but that attachment.
No. Right.
You know, I'm not saying
Right.
don't love our children. We must.
It just makes me recall how Krishna created this entire universe because he loves us so much. And it makes us, when you get to know of it, it just, the awe of the universe, the creation, everything he did just so that we can turn to him. But we're not qualified to be there in the spiritual world, but because he loves us so much, he's given us this playground.
With the intention, hopefully, to get to
Yes,
move
yes,
along
yes.
here.
Exactly.
Wow.
But that
Beautiful.
love that Diti had for her son, I mean, Krishna's love for us is even greater than that.
Of course. Of course. What a production. What a production to fulfill desires of the living entities who want to go away from Krishna. Oh boy.
I know it.
So that chapter ended the pastimes of Lord Varahadev, and then there's one more chapter that we have to cover.
Okay, let's go. Okay, so now we will have Kate. Kate, my darling, would you like to finish up this last slide? I think it's last chart.
Yeah, there's one more slide after it.
Kate, you there, sweetie? Let's see if she's here. Yes. Kate? Okay, well, we'll go on with someone else, and then she'll, Premananda, why don't you do this one?
Okay, thank you. Chapter 20, conversation between Maitreya and Vidura. 1 to 8, Saunaka Rishi's questions. Number 1, Saunaka Rishi asked about Swayambhuva Manu's further activities. 2 through 8, he glorified Vidura and Harikatha and inquired about Vidura's further inquiries to Maitreya. 9 through 11, Vidura asked about Brahma's creation. How did Brahma and his Prajapati sons create further progeny? 12 through 15, Maitreya summarized primary creation, Sarga. 12 through 15, Pradhan. So just the whole sequence from Pradhan, Mahatattva is manifested, and then from Mahatattva we get false ego, and then the 23 elements joined by Lord's cohesive energy to form universal egg. Then the Lord entered into it as Garbhodaksha Vishnu. 16 through 53, Brahma's secondary creation, Visarga or secondary creation. 19 to 21, creation of Yakshas and Rakshasas. 22, creation of Devatas. 23 through 29, creation of demons. 30 to 37, demons flirting with twilight, assuming it to be a woman. And then creation of Gandharvas and Apsaras. 40 and 41, creation of Bhutas and Pisachas. 42 and 43, creation of Sadhyas and Pitras. 44, creation of Siddhas and Vidyadharas. 45 and 46, creation of Kinnaras and Kimpurusas. 47 and 48, creation of snakes. 49 and 51, creation of Manu and others. 52 to 53, creation of the sages.
My goodness. So what can you say about the varieties of living entities?
Well, the various forms of living entities manifest because of their innate desires, right? Depending on what you desire, the Lord is so merciful that he gives that particular form for the fulfillment of the desire. And that's why Brahma created all these different forms of living entities, which is pretty hard to believe, like how can there be so many different desires and so many manifestation of the form. But I think here we are talking not at a very small microscopic level, we are looking at the whole at the universal level. So it's inconceivable, but I think it's there, so we have to accept it.
Yeah, 8,400,000
Species, yeah.
different species.
Yes.
What to speak of the varieties within the species.
Yes.
So talking about individuality,
Right.
can you imagine how, when that's all purified, the
Right.
relationship Krishna has with the living entity and the living entities have with each other,
Right.
all based on love and consciousness. That I want to go back to Godhead because they're not doing it here, but we can do it. We can do it here. We have to do it with each other at least, relate on a pure spiritual level. Go on.
And the beauty is that the Lord has that individual relationship with each of these living entities, not the species, at an individual level, which is amazing, right? It's so hard to accept that I have a relationship with Krishna. Mother Tisha has a relationship with Krishna. You have a relationship with Krishna, and it's also different. It's not like one common relationship. Every relationship is different. That rasa is different, and as part of our journey is to basically unravel that sambandha of the Lord, that unique relationship that we have the Lord.
Good.
So in that case, that's why we should never look down upon anyone's services, even though how insignificant they may look materially, because everyone has their own taste and relationship with the Lord. So we should really respect all the devotees and their service to the devotees, because everyone has a different relationship with the Lord.
Wonderful. That you have to just wear that on, just like when Hanuman opens his chest and there is Sita and Ram, open your chest and have that right there on your heart. That is a perfect explanation of individual, how we are all individual, and we have to be ourselves for Krishna.
Yes.
We have to be ourselves for Krishna. That's such a relief. It's such a relief. All right.
Before we go on, just because there's only one more slide, and it will sort of just want to reiterate it before we get to it. So basically, Maitreya was describing the universal creation, then populating the universe, the advent of Manu and his wife Sadarupa, the saving of the earth planet, and the whole pastimes of Lord Varaha, the children of Brahma going to the kingdom of God, the demons becoming Jai and Vijay becoming cursed. And now we've come full circle all the way back to Vidura, once again inquiring, okay, so what happened with Manu? How did it continue? So Purana, all the Puranas, all 18 Puranas, Purana means history or old, and they all incorporate the history of the universe from different points of view. This is the Bhagavat Purana. So it's describing the universe from the point of view of the pastimes of the Supreme Lord. So let us go on to the last slide, and Vidura closes up.
Well, just is referring to what you just said, Hati, that this Bhagavad Purana describes the universe in relation to the Supreme Lord. That seems like the perfection of everything, to see everything in relation to Krishna. That was beautiful.
Yeah, you may remember from the beginning of the Srimad Bhagavatam that Vyasadeva was feeling unfulfilled. He had written the other 17 Puranas already, including Vishnu Purana, Varaha Purana, Matsya Purana, Varaha Purana, Nrsimha Purana, but still he was feeling unfulfilled because he hadn't done the Krishna, the Bhagavat Purana.
Yeah. Okay, Kate, are you there yet?
Yes, I'm back.
Okay, sweetie, why don't you read this last slide for us?
Thank you. Srimad Bhagavatam 3:29-11. Vidura said, "Since you know of matters inconceivable to us, tell me, O holy sage, what did Brahma do to create living beings after evolving the Prajapatis, the progenitors of living beings? How did the Prajapatis, such progenitors of living entities as Marichi and Svayambhuva Manu, create according to the instruction of Brahma? And how did they evolve this manifested universe? Did they evolve the creation in conjunction with their respective wives? Did they remain independent in their action, or did they all jointly produce it?"
We know that there are some living entities who are created out of the mind, and some are. What else you got to say? You say something about this.
I feel like I mean, I don't really know much to say about this, Mataji. I wish I did. I've never, I didn't know. This is quite a question that he's asking.
Right. You would think
I
that
didn't know
there's
there were
only
different
one.
entities conceived from different ways, like you just mentioned. I did not know that.
Yeah.
So
Well,
I'm being enlightened here.
Yeah, that was throughout the Bhagavatam, and in this third canto, we also, Lord Brahma creates from his center of his head, Rudra, and from his mind, the mental sons. Who else, Pati, is created out of the mind or somewhere else, different parts?
Manu and Satarupa just kind of manifested out of his body. But now basically what Vidura is asking is bringing the whole creation and development of the universe to another level. It's no longer going to be the mental sons or Brahma. It's the Prajapatis and their offspring. And just for everybody's information, next week will be our final Zoom for the third canto. So we hope you'll all tune in. I want to thank you and appreciate all of your association for this whole segment of the second part of the third canto.
And we'll stop everything and then start up again in October or with the fourth canto.
That's the idea.
We have to see what
how
we're
things
going to do.
unfold. Right.
Okay, Cheta, do you want to say something more about this before we leave?
She
Just
did.
so
She
grateful.
did say. Oh, go ahead.
Just grateful for everybody's association today. It's so wonderful. I've had very little time to do any research this week, but just having this wonderful Zoom meeting is so replenishing and rejuvenating, enlivening. Thank you all for your.
Yeah,
And thank you
it's
for
so
looking that up.
special.
It looks like it came from the Padma Purana that Namachintamani Krishnas.
Yes,
Yeah.
there it is.
Thank you all. It's so special and so sweet to have your association. Let's just do this eternally in whatever form we wind up. Hare Krishna. Vanchakapaltarubhyascha, Kripa Sindhu Vyebhascha, Patitanam Pavanebhyo, Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. Thank you. Hare Krishna.